Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time we're going to do a why buy on LeBlanc, who is the Deceiver. She is an assassin mage type champion. Generally goes into the mid lane and really likes to blow people up. She specializes in deletion of enemy squishies. I would say that one of the biggest things she has going for her is she has possibly some of the highest single target burst in the entire game. I ran a little bit of numbers here, and let's just go ahead and pull this up. So if we look at her, she has 3 base spells, and then her 4th spell, Mimic, is kind of like another damaging spell, but it just kind of copies one of her 3 basic spells. And so if you add up all of the base damages at a level 18 LeBlanc, the base damage is a 1435. On top of that, she has a 370% combined AP ratio across all 4 of her abilities if you go for the highest damage combo. So let's say she has 500 ability power at level 18. That's going to be an extra 1850 damage combined with the base damages for 3,285 damage. Now, if you throw a Deathfire Grasp in front of this, the damage is around 4,000. Specifically, you've got 42, so almost 4,200 damage. Now, this is not taking into account any sort of magic resist or magic penetration, which will inevitably bring that number lower. But still, we're talking about a champion who can burst you for over 3,000 damage in a late game situation. You know, we're talking about, like, you can, like, one-shot tanks almost if they don't have a ton of magic resist, which is pretty insane. And, yeah, she's really, really crazy in terms of scaling, and definitely a champion who can snowball really, really hard and just make games go totally out of control and just totally one-shotting her opponents. But overall, a pretty fun champion to play. She's also extremely slippery with a very, very high mobility. And once you get a feel for her combos, she actually can be incredibly powerful. Very strong early laner. She can really shut down a lot of the long-range mages, you know, just because, you know, if you ever get in range, about 600 or so range of her, she can get her base combo off on you, and it's going to do a lot of damage. So Brandon and I are just kind of trading back and forth here in lane. Anyways, let's talk about this. It was actually a normals match. I am playing LeBlanc in the mid lane against Brand. Our top lane matchup is going to be Kha'Zix and Trundle. Jungle is Rammus and Evelynn. Bot lane, we've got Caitlyn and Leona versus Jinx and Taric. But yeah, let's talk some more about LeBlanc. She's a really fun champ to play, and kind of an interesting one. I feel like I've seen a lot of somewhat poor LeBlancs in you know, like one of those champions that, especially in lower elos, people tend to play very poorly. God, I'm taking a lot of harass here. But you know, definitely somebody that a champion that people tend to play a little bit poorly. But you know, if you've ever seen a good LeBlanc player, you'll understand that she is really, really frightening. And yeah, definitely a fun champion to play in Masters. So if you're looking for a new assassin, I think LeBlanc could fit the bill really nicely. Especially, you know, I've talked a lot about the assassin nerfs. You know, like Ari and Zed and Fizz aren't seen quite as much anymore. Well, LeBlanc could be a champion to step in and fill those shoes. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about her skills and abilities and figure out what makes her tick. First up, her passive, Mirror Image. Whenever she drops below 40% health, she becomes invisible for a brief moment, and then she creates a mirror image of herself, which is considered a pet. And then it's kind of used to trick the enemy into knowing what, you know, they have to pick which clone of you to kill, and so they don't always know how to finish you off. And it just kind of gives her, like I said, she's a really slippery champion, makes her really hard to kill. And when you get on low levels, especially if you're good with LeBlanc, you can control your clone in such a way to make people think that it's really you, and like you can use it for some really, really sick jukes. If you've ever, there's some highlight clips, I believe, from like Civ HD or Hotshot GG of like making these incredible escapes, and a lot of that is managing your clone really well. And if you didn't know, the way to manage your pets, so this would be like Tibbers or LeBlanc's mirror image, is you hold down Alt and then right click. I believe that is the default keys there for that combo. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep that in mind whenever you see yourself go into mirror image. Use that Alt right click and try to, you know, to juke out and think, you know, what would my enemy think that I'm doing? Where would they think that I'm going to go? And then try to anticipate that. Fortunately, I wasn't in the best position to go in on this Elise gank, which we probably could have gotten a kill if I would have reacted a little bit better. I actually didn't. The moment she repelled in was the moment that I backed off to last hit a minion, so I just kind of didn't really coordinate very well with my jungler. My fault there. So anyways, a good passive and definitely one that makes her really tricky to nail down. Next up would be her Q, Sigil of Silence. This is a point-and-click single-target nuke, and it is a two-part nuke, very similar to most assassin mechanics where it has like a trigger mechanic where it does initial damage, so kind of like a Kali's Q where it does initial damage, and then you have to use another spell to proc the mark. So I believe Katarina's Q also does this. So similar mechanic. Now with LeBlanc's Sigil of Silence, if you do proc the mark, you'll get the bonus damage, but you'll also silence the target for 1.5 seconds, which is really, really nice. And basically what this does is it gives LeBlanc some free harassment. One of her core harassment combos in lane would be to throw out your Q, proc the mark with a quick W back to your original location, and then so they're silenced and you're back at your original spot, so there's really nothing that you can do. It's this unanswerable harass, pretty much free damage, which makes her really, really strong. And like, you know, once she gets even at level 2, she can start pulling off this combo, and she's really scary and really hard to deal with in that regard. You can max this first. I would say like a more classic LeBlanc build would be to max this first, but there are times when you maybe want to max it second. It's just kind of a personal playstyle thing, and I'll talk more about that later. But definitely one of her best abilities. It's also her lowest cooldown, so definitely good stuff there. And also the base damage on this is really, really high. I definitely feel like I should mention that. 310 base damage with an 80% AP ratio. And now this does include both the initial and the proc of the mark, so you have to get both to get the big damage. But that's really, really high base damage. 310 is absurdly high with an 80% AP ratio, also very, very high. Next up will be her W, Distortion. This is her blink ability. She blinks to target location on the ground, deals magic damage in an AoE, and then she has the option to return to her starting location within 3 seconds. So this is a really, really cool ability. Gives LeBlanc this very slippery nature, very hard to lock down, and part of it is because of her W. Now, like I said, the core combo that I use is to throw out my Q on my opponent, W on top of them, and then immediately W right back to my starting location. So it gives you this really, really nice harass combo. Your W is definitely your easiest way to proc your Q, and so it's definitely useful there. This is also her best AoE wave clear. I used it right there to push this minion wave back. One of LeBlanc's strengths is she really lacks pushing power and like big time farming potential. Like if you look at somebody like Zed, you know, he can farm waves extremely easily with his clone and both of his his Q and his E are AoE abilities. Whereas LeBlanc, she only has her W, but her W is also her primary way to proc her mark, and it's also her primary escape tool. You know, if you're getting ganked like I am here, I'm just going to W away like I did right there, and it'll be totally fine. So yeah, definitely an ability that has a lot of uses and is very core to her kit in a lot of ways. And another thing that, you know, like I said with the Mimic, you can use your I'm sorry, not the Mimic, with the mirror image, so you can use that for a lot of really cool. As she, Elise is coming in for a gank. Can she get the stun? Yes, she can. I use my ultimate right there, and we get the kill onto Brand. Nice job by Elise. But, you know, so you can use this combined with your passive to do some really incredible ganks, or gank escapes, or jukes, or whatever you want to call it. She just has a ton of potential for outplaying her opponents and doing some really, really cool and interesting plays. So, using my Distortion right there again to push this wave out. Now, in this game, I actually maxed my W first, because basically the thought process here is it kind of makes up for one of LeBlanc's weakness, is that her weak farming and her weak, pushing potential. So the big thing about when you level this up is not only do you get the nice damage from it, but you get the much lower cooldown. It goes from 18 seconds down to 10 seconds. And if you get a little CDR, that's down to like about 6 seconds max CDR. So again, makes her very mobile, but it also makes her a much better farming champion. So that's kind of my thought process there. It definitely lowers your single target burst, which is something to keep in mind, but it's kind of just a personal preference thing. And my preference is to be a little bit more of a reliable farming champion, not necessarily one who is all completely designed on getting kills. So it's just kind of whatever is your flavor there is the best choice. So last up would be her E, Ethereal Chains. This is a lined skill shot. She'll send out a shackle and it will tag an enemy, it will slow them, and then if the shackle remains on them for 1.5 seconds, they take a second proc of damage and then are rooted for 1.5 seconds. This is probably her main utility spell. I tend to max this last because it's also her most difficult to hit. So right there I actually went ahead and got my QW going. I actually threw out my E, but I missed Brand because the minion was in the way and it blocked it. Now her E is a little bit harder to hit, but you know, it's definitely something that you want to hit for the crowd control. Is really, really useful. There are situations where you would maybe want to use your ultimate on your E's to get the double crowd control, but yeah, definitely her best utility spell to help keep your targets locked down. It looks like Brand, if that would have landed, it probably would have killed me. But Elise is coming in again, but I can't really follow up, so I'm just going to kind of farm out this wave with my W. Going to push it out just fine. Probably look to go back here relatively soon. There's the chains. And yeah, definitely landing this is a little bit trickier of her other abilities, so just kind of keep that in mind. So last up would be her ultimate, Mimic. This is one of her most interesting abilities, and I think what makes LeBlanc a really interesting and fun champion to play. Basically, the idea here is that whenever you hit R, the previous spell that you casted will be technically mimicked, and basically you get to use it again. So if you hit Q on somebody and then hit R on somebody, you'll basically throw out a second Q, or a mimicked Q. If you W away and then hit R, you will W again. So you can get 2 distortions. If you, again, throw out your E on someone and then hit R, you'll throw out another E. So definitely something to keep in mind. And basically when you hit level 6, you have tremendous burst combos. So there I actually used my ult. Let's actually watch this combo back one more time and get a feel for exactly what I was doing. As this kill sequence on Brand, we can see my Mimic in full effect. There I believe I hit QW, W back to the original location. Now I'm just waiting on some cooldowns. My Q has come back up, waiting for my W to come back up. There's my Q again, and there's my R, so I hit QR to mimic my Q. And now I'm going to throw out my chains right there to pick up the kill, to proc the mark from my second Q. Sigil of Silence, the mimicked version. So definitely, yeah, it gives LeBlanc a lot of really interesting options. And basically, when she got kind of slightly reworked in one of the prior patches, what they did is they made it her ultimate more viable in terms of using it in different ways. So, gonna throw out a QW and try to get some damage off onto this Brand. There's a nice Ethereal Chains. And just kind of dancing around here. But anyway, so when they reworked her ultimate, basically because previously people would simply always use her ultimate to mimic her Q, because it had the most damage and it was just the best for her burst combination. Now that's still true. However, there are times when you would want to use your ultimate on your W and on your E. So it just kind of depends. And the really nice thing that they did is they actually gave the mimic spells their own set of base damage and AP ratio compared to your base spell. So basically the idea was that if let's say you're maxing Q first, but you wanted to use a double proc of your W. Well, that wouldn't always make sense if it's depending on the base damage, because you don't really have that many levels in your W early on, so it's not really going to help you out that much. But now that they have their own set of base damages and AP ratios, you can basically use your ultimate on any spell at any time, and it's always going to be useful because you have such high, you always have high damage depending on no matter what skill you leveled up. Now, I would say that there's a nice QW right there, QWW. I would say that definitely her highest burst combo would be QRWE, so you're getting the double proc of your Q. And the nice thing is that the second Q, so your mimicked Q, will actually proc the mark from your initial Q, and then your W will proc the mark from your second Q. So you're getting, you're getting both marks procced. There's a nice dodge right there, and I'm actually used my ultimate on my W there to try to juke his skill shot. Let's actually watch this one more time, and I'll try to explain the combos, because LeBlanc definitely has a lot of combos that you need to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and watch this in its slow motion glory in this full camera. So I believe I threw out a Q right there. Gonna try to dodge that with a W, and W right back. There is an ultimate, so I used my ultimate on my W and finish off the kill with my E. So that time I actually did Q, W, R, E. So I used my mimic on my W to get the second movement, so I could dodge whatever skill shot Brand threw at me. So yeah, definitely, a lot of different combos to use there. Now, especially with this build that I'm going for, which is more based on, I rushed Athene, so I've got some cooldown reduction, some mana regen, and I'm maxing W. This allows me to have some really, really nice pushing power, wave clear, and farming potential. So a lot of times in this game, I'll actually use my ultimate on my W just to push out a big minion wave, because if you get if you WR a whole minion wave, you'll pretty much clear out a gigantic minion wave very, very easily and immediately, just because you have so much AoE damage coming from your mimicked W. So anyways, those are her spells. She's a little bit more complex than some of the other assassins, and you really need to keep track of when you're going to use your ultimate. Now, there are certain instances where, it just really depends on the situation, where certain, if you're going for the one-shot combo, kind of like based off of Deathfire Grasp, you're definitely going to want to Q, R, W, E, but there I actually used my ultimate on my W so I could get into range, and let's actually watch this one more time. Again, I really want to make sure that you guys have a basic understanding of these combos. So, Leona goes in on Jinx. I'm going to throw out my Q. I'm going to W and R on top of her because I felt like I needed to gap close, and then I actually got stunned, but I'm going to throw out my E right there to get the shutdown onto Jinx. So right there, I used my ultimate on my R. I'm sorry, I used my ultimate on my W because I really wanted to try and get the reset. There's a nice QW combo to pick up the double kill. So again, using my ultimate there in this situation for the mobility because I felt like I needed to stay in range of Jinx, not necessarily on the Q because I didn't necessarily feel like I needed straight up damage. I just needed to get in range of her to deal the damage. So yeah, that's kind of the core idea there, is that it really depends on the situation. Your Q probably gives you the best upfront burst damage, your W gives you the best mobility, and then your E gives you the best crowd control. So if you feel like you really need to lock somebody down so your team can shut them down, a double proc on your E would actually be really, really nice because you're getting a double slow and a double root. So the total root there could actually be for 3 seconds with slow in between. So again, it really just depends on what type of situation you're in and what type of spell you want to mimic with your ultimate. So anyways, those are LeBlanc's core spells. And actually I'm going for a little bit of a cheeky blue steal here. Gonna do the QWW and steal the blue and get out like a light, no problem. And actually, let's watch this one more time. This is actually a good situation of using my mimic, or not my mimic, my clone for my passive. See how I send my passive towards Tarek right there? This is not actually my character. My character is actually moving up here. So a little bit of a cheeky move right there to try and juke out as I stole the blue buff. So anyways, those are LeBlanc's abilities. And really, the biggest thing to keep in mind is just that, your base harassment combo is going to be QWW, and that's a really, really strong combo, especially when you're laning. A nice QWW combo will pretty much throw down a big time hurt on almost anybody. I used it right there on the Rammus to try to get him low. And the nice thing about it is it really is this unanswerable free harassment, because you're not really in range to retaliate because your W puts you right back to your original location. But then on top of it, you're not actually able to take counter harass because you silence them with the second proc of your Q. So it's just this really, really useful combination. Makes things really nice. There I actually used my W and my R to escape, and using my W again to get over the wall. Again, LeBlanc very, very slippery, very hard to keep locked down. So yeah, like I said, the basic combo is definitely a quick QWW. That's going to be your best harassment combo in lane. It's going to give you the most amount of free harassment damage. And if you're quick enough with your W, you can actually do like crazy things. Like you can even harass them under tower because your W responds so quickly that the tower aggro doesn't even pick up on you. They actually caught that Jinx W midair, so now I'm definitely going to want to back and look out for the Jinx ultimate. Going to make sure I W away. There's the Jinx ult, and it misses me, so we're good to go. So yeah, definitely when you're laning, you want to really look to land those QWWs. And if you can follow up with an E, definitely do it. But, it's really just safest to try to whittle them down with QWWs. And then when you want to go all in, probably when you hit level 6, like I said, your best burst combo would be Q, R, W, E, and then Ignite would probably finish off just about anybody. So those are that's kind of her basic combo. Then, like I said, sometimes if you feel as if you need to kind of close the extra distance and gap close, you can use your ultimate on your W. If you feel like you need the lockdown, you can use your ultimate on your E. For the most part, I generally use my ultimate on my Q or my W. Those are probably the two spells that I favored the most. Again, using my W here to wave clear with this build, it's already up again. It's got a 7.5 second cooldown with this build that I've gone for. So I would say that's pretty darn nice, having a 7 second free dash, free flash, really, just gives LeBlanc so much tremendous mobility and farming potential. So anyways, those are kind of her basic abilities. Let's talk a little bit about builds. So I would say there are two main builds that I have seen. A lot of this is coming from LCS Play, or even like Pro Builds is a website that I'll go to, probuilds.net, I believe, where a lot of the they just track pro players in solo queue, and they will give you like a little summary of the builds that they use. The two builds that I have seen, the one I'm using in this game is you're focusing on maxing your W, and then you're going to get Athene's Unholy Grail as your first item. Athene's is just a really strong item right now. There's a nice QW R right there to pick up the kill onto Brand. Actually QWW'd and then R. But able to pick up that kill very nicely. But anyways, as I was saying, so you want to max your W first and then buy Athene's as your first item. And again, the thought process here is that this will kind of make up for some of LeBlanc's weaknesses. Her main weakness is her lack of pushing power, her lack of strong farming potential. Gonna juke out here with my W, no problem. So this kind of makes up for that. It gives you, a really low cooldown, almost free farming potential with your maxed W. And then, with the cooldown reduction, the mana, regeneration, you can pretty much spam your abilities on cooldown and not have to worry too much about running out of mana. So it gives you just better lane sustain, but at the same time it gives you significantly less burst. Your one-shot potential is much lower, and your power spike in terms of being able to one-shot squishies is delayed. So that's kind of the trade-off there, that you get a little bit better laning, a little bit better farming, and you'll scale a little bit better into late game in terms of, getting a bunch of gold, but at the same time your power spike is going to be delayed. So you can't quite, be as the overwhelming one-shotting assassin as you will. Then the other build is focusing on maxing Q and rushing Deathfire Grasp. Those are probably the two ways to go. Now, eventually in this game I do want to get DFG, but not prioritizing it as an early item. But there are definitely times where you will see LeBlancs who will rush Deathfire Grasp, they'll max Q, and then you're really going for that one-shot combo where you're going to lead with your DFG, Q, R, W, E, and you're pretty much guaranteed, if you can successfully get that full combo off, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a kill there. So yeah, definitely two different playstyles. I think both are valid. The classic LeBlanc build though was probably with the DFG rush and the with the Q max. That's probably the classic way to play LeBlanc, but that definitely has its downsides as well. Again, her pushing power and farming potential is really weak. She's going to rely a lot on her auto attacks to farm, which just isn't the best. As an AP mage, your auto attacks really aren't going to do that much good. But there was a QWW. You can use actually my ultimate to get away, and my chains to slow, and my Q to pick up that kill on Rammus, so kiting him back with my E, doing a nice job of picking up that kill there. So anyways, between those two build styles, I would say it's a lot up to your personal preference. The one-shot build with the DFG is probably a little bit better for experienced players. Deathfire Grasp isn't always the easiest item to use optimally. You have to have some good map awareness and just good timing and positioning on your assassins to know when to go in. But there was I actually missed my W, unfortunately, so kind of a rough combo right there. But yeah, so you really do need to know, good timing, good positioning and all that stuff. So the Athene's and W max build is probably a little more forgiving, just because again you have the lower cooldown W, you've got the cooldown reduction. They're actually going to pick up this kill onto Tarek. I got there. Man, he's getting really low. Okay, we do finish him off. Got the Ethereal Chains to get the root in place, which helped at least catch him. So yeah, like I said, it's definitely up to your personal preference. It's really up to you. But then other than that, other really good items on LeBlanc. Death Cap's always really, really good. Void Staff is really good. You're probably going to want to get those every game no matter what. Zonia's is also a really, really good option just because it gives you some nice survivability in case you do get caught out. Especially in solo queue where things happen. You make mistakes. We're not LCS players. You're going to potentially goof up from time to time. So having the ability to kind of save yourself when you make an error and get caught out can be really, really useful. On here, actually, it looks like Rammus is here, and just going to go ahead and use my combo. I actually missed my E, unfortunately, and so we're probably going to have to back out. Now, in terms of LeBlanc's playstyle, like I said, she's definitely an assassin, somebody who wants to make sure that she finds her way onto squishy targets. But really, I also would say that LeBlanc is a very mid-game focused champion. Specifically, once she gets her ultimate, her kill potential is extremely high. And also, she's a really, really good roamer, just because she can come in from weird angles with her W, and she can catch people out. They're actually landing a full combo on Kha'Zix, helping to pick up that kill. I don't actually think I used my ultimate there. I don't know, I'm not actually sure if I did or not. But anyway, we managed to pick up the kill, so that's really good. Up to 6-0-5 at this point. So some good stuff coming out there. There's a nice QW combo right there, and using my chain, not able to quite land it because I didn't want to take too much tower aggro. But a good push right there from my team, using my W to farm. But, so yeah, LeBlanc, you really want to be a mid-game focused champion, somebody who tries to get a lot of, you basically want to try and pick up kills wherever you can. LeBlanc is really focused on snowballing and picking up kills, and really getting the game out of control in the mid game. Like I said, one of the best mid game champions. Her laning is very strong because she has really good harassment with the QWW, and then her roaming potential is very high. So that's really what you want to focus on with LeBlanc. No matter what build you go for, is being a real lane bully and getting a lot of damage off on your lane opponent, but then also roaming and bringing your damage to other lanes. I had a couple of nice roams towards Dragon earlier on in the game, and that really helped us to kind of snowball the game going and get myself a nice early lead. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. But now, in terms of weaknesses, LeBlanc tends to be an assassin who doesn't scale that well into late game, and the kicker is that it isn't because she doesn't have enough damage. It's mostly because she has a hard time performing her combo safely in a 5v5 teamfight situation. So it's kind of similar to Pantheon in that regard, where she's not a champion who can very easily or quickly or accessibly get her full combo off in kind of a congested teamfight situation. Because her W is really required to proc the mark, and that means you're going to have to literally put your physical self in the middle of the enemy team. There's a full combo onto Brand. I actually believe I used QR, and that finished him off. But they're flashing in for a QW onto the Jinx, and now Kha'Zix is going to blow me up. But we did pick up the Jinx, and my team is in probably a pretty good place to finish off this Kha'Zix. Yes, they are, so nice job by my team to help pick that kill up. So, like I was saying, her late game, it doesn't tend to be the best, just because she can have a harder time just kind of maneuvering in these convoluted teamfight situations, where if you look at somebody else like Zed, he can just ult onto somebody from a bit of a distance and pull his full combo, get his all of his spells out, and then use his ultimate to get back out to safety. Makes him really slippery. All these assassins need some way to kind of deal with these messy teamfight situations, and with LeBlanc, you really need to rely on using your spells in a really creative way, specifically your W in a really creative way to make sure you're staying safe. Now, also, like I mentioned before, some of her weaknesses is she's not really the greatest farming champion. She doesn't have a lot of AoE outside of her W. Both her Q and her E require that you proc the mark to get the second proc of damage, so those aren't the best spells to farm with. But there's actually the nice one-shot combo onto Brand. And there I'm actually going to land the chains and get the QR W right there to pick up that kill. So again, using my Q, then using my Mimic, or on my Q again to proc the first Q, and then my W to finish her off. Rammus is coming in, but I'm just going to W over the wall and be fine. Again, showing how slippery LeBlanc is. But yeah, so definitely one of her big weaknesses, like I mentioned, is she does lack pushing power and wave clear and farming potential. She often has a bit of a harder time just kind of managing to farm creeps. She just doesn't last hit that well, and she just doesn't have the tools in terms of her abilities to really farm effectively. But that said, she does have really strong laning. A lot of other top assassins have relatively weak laning, especially if you look at like Zed and Akali and Kassadin. They're generally very reliant on their ultimates, whereas with LeBlanc, definitely your ultimate helps, but you have pretty much all the tools in your kit that you're going to have at level 3 when you get your 3 basic abilities. And then from there, it just kind of depends on how you use them. Then your ultimate just gives you like another shot at using one of your basic abilities. So that's definitely an advantage that LeBlanc has. But she's a fun, interesting champ, and definitely one I think we'll see more of in the LCS as the season kind of continues, just because, I mean, her single target burst is incredible, and if you can find a way to really fit her in a team successfully, she can do a lot of work. So here actually was one of the best moments in the game, coming in here and flanking around from the side, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing as assassin. There's the DFG, Q, W, and then I believe I also used my ultimate to pick up that kill onto Brand. Actually, I did not even use my ultimate yet. There, I believe I used it right there to help to pick up the kill onto Kha'Zix. There's a nice Q and W right there to get some nice damage off. Now turning again onto Taric. There's a Q, and can I get the chains? Yes, I can to proc the Q mark, and can I W in as well? No, it's not quite off cooldown yet. Let's get one more QW, LeBlanc. There's the Q, where's the W? Boom, there it is, and with the Caitlyn ultimate, we pick up that kill. So a very, very nice team fight for my team. I believe we got 4 kills for 0, so very, very good stuff. And again, using my positioning to flank the enemy from the side, not drawing any attention onto myself. As you can see, there was 0 crowd control spells used on me. Just a perfect place to come in from the side, focusing on Brand. You know, Brand or Jinx would have worked fine, but Brand was just kind of right there, using my DFG, Q, W, and then he was pretty much dead at that point. I don't know if I actually even need anything else. He had taken a little bit of AoE damage on top of that. So now I'm in a really strong position. I actually have been farming really well. If you see, I'm actually leading the game in CS, 231, which is probably not, you know, very... Ooh, here we go. This was another thing I wanted to point out. Probably not very common for LeBlanc just to be farming so well, but here was a really... I see that our Leona was caught out, so I go to help her out, and then check this little skirmish out between Kha'Zix and I. I see Kha'Zix coming in right here, and I'm just like, hey, I'm going to shoot him. So there's DFG, Q, W, ultimate, using my ultimate empowered W, and just one-shotting him right there, no problemo, before he even had a chance to react. It just made things very, very successful for me, and we pick up the kill. Actually, I think Rammus is probably going to get away, but still some really good stuff right there, able to get the DFG one-shot. I mean, with Deathfire Grasp, her burst damage is just through the roof. So now we're just kind of pushing in, looking to pick up a kill possibly, and they're actually, again, missing it. So this time on Taric, this goes to show you, again, using DFG, you can one-shot really, you know, beefy targets without much of a problem. There's the DFG, Q, W, ultimate, and I actually missed the E, but one more auto, I think I finished him off with Ignite, actually, is going to pick up that kill. But still, I even missed my Ethereal Chains, but that still wasn't much of a problem. I still was able to one-shot Taric with my DFG. I'm just really strong right now. If you look at my build, I've got Athene's, DFG, Rabadon's Death Cap, and the Void Staff is really, really nice. That's really going to spike my damage in this late game situation. So yeah, definitely in a strong spot. Now, we're just kind of putzing around a little bit. This game is really snowballed out of control. There I pick up a kill onto the Rammus, and this game's pretty much over. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. LeBlanc is a really fun champ to play, very powerful assassin for sure, up to 15, 1, and 9 right now, picking up quite a few kills. Really have snowballed this game out of control. I wonder if I actually get a couple more. There's another one on the Jinx. Oh man, again, that QW combo, if you throw DFG up the front, it's just insane how much damage you do. Oh, another kill onto the Taric, but this game is pretty much over now. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below on LeBlanc. If you agree that maybe we'll start seeing a little bit more of her. Also, I'd really like to know what type of build you prefer. If you prefer the DFG, you know, one-shot build, or if you could like the more of the utility-based build with Fiends, definitely let me know. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.